governing our economic activities. In particular, this failure at the local level tends to lead to unnecessary tensions in communities over economic opportunities, more so with foreign nationals. As a matter of priority, we need to strengthen our institutional capacity so that we can enforce our laws and regulations to enhance the ease of doing business, prevent anti-competitive behavior, and minimize conflict in township and rural economic spaces. Revitalizing the rural and township economies requires focus on the twin objectives of investing in economic infrastructure and enterprise development on one hand, and consistent application and adherence to the regulations as provided for in our laws on the other hand. Our government's intervention in this regard are focused on these two areas in order to build platforms wherein future resources can be applied to increase our impact. Our government, through the Department of Trade and Industry, introduced the Industrial Park Revitalization Program in order to facilitate broad-based economic participation so that we can achieve inclusive growth as well as facilitating the transformation of our economy. The purpose of this program is to revitalize South Africa's state-owned industrial parks and enable them to serve as catalysts for broader economic and industrial development, with a specific focus to our township and rural areas. This program seeks to modernize our industrial park infrastructure with the main objective of accelerating economic development by attracting investment in those areas. The program also seeks to support job creation in manufacturing and related sectors so as to address underdevelopment, unemployment challenges that lead in the main to out-migration into our already congested cities. To date, government has already revitalized 10 industrial parks in its first phase program, with the next phase targeting an additional 5 industrial parks, with already money spent estimated at 300 million. These industrial parks are in Buchabelo, Seshego, Komane, Isitebe, Vulindlela, to name a few. They've already provided industrial space to over 670 enterprises, which in turn provided direct employment to over 41,000 people, primarily from each industrial park surrounding our township. In the next 4 months, government will launch the Township Entrepreneurial Fund, which will assist these entrepreneurs to either scale up their existing projects or provide startup capital for new projects. In addition to these measures, government will also support township and rural economies through implementing a special dispensation or set aside in awarding of medium and long-term contracts to small businesses, cooperatives, and township and village enterprises to allow for a period of incubation and other support to help reduce failure rate. Increasing support measures for cooperative enterprises by implementing critical elements of the newly amended Cooperatives Act, including putting in motion the Cooperative Development Agency and the Training Academy, and also addressing the dominance of big retail chain stores in our township and rural areas. These interventions, Madam Speaker, are designed to deliver substantial economic impact in financially sustainable manner. They also represent the first phase to initiatives that will leverage government procurement and corporate supply chain development programs. If successfully implemented, all these initiatives will promote job creation and reduce failure rate of our SMMEs. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Siwela.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The response you gave, it gives us hope. However, Honorable Speaker, I have a follow-up question in this regard. Honorable Deputy President, as we were crisscrossing the country during the election campaign, part of the challenges raised by the small business in the townships and rural communities was the collapse of their local businesses due to foreign nationals taking over the small businesses such as tuck shops. What is government doing to address this particular challenge? I will appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much for the follow-up question. Well, we've heard the complaints by our SMMEs, small enterprises in our township and rural areas that foreign nationals are taking what normally should be their jobs, that should normally be their businesses. It's a well-placed concern. What we are trying to do here is to ensure that every business that is undertaken in our township and rural villages, it's regulated through our existing bylaws. We want to insist that every business that is being opened, it should follow the prescripts of the law. And whatever is being traded in those businesses, government should check the quality of the products that are being sold in those businesses, because we've been reliably informed that some of the businesses are selling expired goods. Now, government should ensure that those who are selling expired goods, those businesses should be closed. And every business that is opened in our township and in our villages must be registered with our municipalities, must be registered with our provincial governments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mutseka. Honorable Mutseka, I'm told you pressed by mistake. We proceed. Honorable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, yes indeed, there is a lot of talk about job creation, boosting the economy, economic growth, township economic development. However, we must be realistic with the challenges that our people face on the ground. Now, first of all, Deputy President, one of the problems is the entire budget process. The budget process does not speak to the people on the ground. As a result, they do not address the needs and challenges of the people on the ground. We talk about foreigners, yes indeed. there is a problem because municipalities are not ensuring all these businesses are registered, that they are tax compliant, as a result of which the playing field is not equal. Special planning, if you take the city of Cape Town,
Your
people
question,
travel from
please.
Township. How are you going to address this, Deputy President? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy President.
Well, Honorable Speaker, I've not heard the question. What is the question?
The special planning, thank you, Chair, Deputy President. The special planning in a lot of areas like the city of Cape Town does not address the challenges of people living in the townships, in creating jobs in the townships. How are we going to address that problem and ensuring that the budget process takes the needs of the people
That
in
was
the community?
question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At least now it's clear I've heard the question. Well, national government is in the process of finalizing the special integrated framework that will tell us what to do where in the country. But above all, we are now insisting on integrated planning. National government, provincial government, municipalities must plan together because we are planning on a space that exists in a municipality. If we are building houses, there should be water, there should be roads, there should be schools, there should be clinics. It's important that all of us plan together. So we're starting a process where, together with provinces, together with municipalities, we're going to share our plans so that we deliver services in a coordinated fashion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Meshwe.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Deputy President. Over the past 2 years, there has been much government rhetoric regarding township economy. At least 2 extraordinary summits focusing on township economy were held. But since the summits, nothing concrete or measurable seems to have happened. In one of the summits, Deputy President, you said that certain industries need to be ring-fenced and procurement of particular goods and services must come from township economies. That being the case, my question is whether government has a register of service providers in any township from which government can procure goods and services. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Information at our disposal is the number of SMMEs spread throughout the country in each and every municipality, those that are registered and those that are not registered. From the information at hand is that instead of SMMEs, small businesses dying, we see the number increasing. Of course, I can account for informal businesses, SMMEs, that are not registered in the formal system. We can account for formal SMMEs that are registered. But the complaint that we have received is that these SMMEs that are doing business with government, they are not paid on time. Hence, some of them, they die. This is one element that we're going to attend, that government must do everything in its power, the 3 spheres of government. Once we enlist or we require services from SMMEs, we must ensure that they are paid on time. Some of the SMMEs are complaining about the infrastructure in their township. They are complaining about the infrastructure in the rural villages. Hence, the revitalization of all these industrial parks that belongs to government. And I said more or less 670 small businesses have already occupied those industrial parks. And we're sure that the number will increase. Now, what is important probably is to sustain, ensure that the aftercare, when an SMME starts getting business, it must be supported in terms of business management. If it does business with government, it must be paid on time. In that way, we think the rate of success will increase. But once more again, we think government should provide the necessary market for some of the products that are produced by SMMEs, because they can't compete evenly with those big companies. There are SMMEs that are producing bricks, they are producing all materials that government used to build roads, build schools, build clinics. SMMEs must be prioritized. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Ntlangwini.
I'll take the question for Honorable Ntlangwini, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, according to your NDP, you have a target to reduce unemployment rate by 14% by 2020. Can you please remind the nation, in order to reduce this unemployment, how many jobs did the NDP say should be created? And realistically speaking, can you tell this nation how far are you towards achieving this goal? Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I might not be precise in terms of the number of jobs that we've set ourselves in the NTP as a target. But all what I can say is that we have not done very well in terms of gradually going closer to that target. There are many factors that contributed to that. Definitely, we can only create jobs if we've got an economy that is growing gradually. And an economy that is growing does not really necessarily imply that it will create jobs. There should be an intervention to ensure that as it grows, we ensure that job opportunities are created by those companies, because every company that is trading, it's looking for profit. They will try many ways to reduce what goes to payment to employees and capitalize on profit. So it is important for government to ensure that every business that is opened, some of their activities must be labor intensive so that it absorbs people. But I must confess that as a country, because of the fluctuating economy, going down, up and down, we're almost in a recession and we've lost jobs. But the pace at which we have lost jobs has been complemented by new jobs that were created. We're very worried about the advent of new technologies that are being employed in our economy. Businesses are seeking to find better ways to minimize wastages. For instance, you've heard that Standard Bank is closing some of their outlets. Now, in a space of 1 square kilometers, Standard Bank had 4, 5 outlets. They've just realized that we can do with one outlet, we can service those people. Their tradition and their thinking was that every trading space that is open, they must put a facility. They are changing that notion because people can do their transaction without physically going to the outlet. And as a result, we are going to lose jobs. So as government, we must find better ways to retrain those people, channel them into other sectors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honourable members, that was our fourth supplementary question. We now proceed, Deputy President, to the second question. It was put to you by the Honourable Steenhuisen. Deputy President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The question from Honourable Steenhuisen. The Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has reported that the following findings of the Auditor General in the Consolidated General Report on the Local Government Audit Outcomes for the 2017-18 financial year. The Auditor General in that report identified 48 municipalities that require special intervention. In this regard, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs will continue to support and implement support measures to improve leadership and governance in those municipalities, including specific focus on the financial sustainability of those municipalities in question. Among other key areas, support is provided to ensure that action plans are implemented to reverse the negative audit outcomes. In collaboration with National Treasury and SALGA, COCTA is providing targeted support to improve revenue collection, to improve budgeting, account reconciliation, debt management, and the implementation of financial recovery plans. Additionally, COCTA is supporting municipalities through post-audit action plans, capacity building, and strengthening financial and performance management in those municipalities. These are also complemented by the already deployed teams, district technical support teams, to all those municipalities in question. Through our Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency, struggling municipalities are supported to accelerate the implementation of infrastructure projects that addresses the delivery of basic services such as water and sanitation. This is one area where municipalities are greatly challenged. This support also includes procurement, contract management, project management, infrastructure maintenance, and the overall institutional capacity to roll out infrastructure projects. To strengthen government support to local government, the President has appointed an interministerial committee on service delivery at district level to coordinate the work of government on the delivery of services in a manner that responds promptly to community concerns. In the main, this committee will work with COCTA and key service delivery department to respond in an integrated and coordinated fashion to challenges that are raised by our communities. Where appropriate, it will also enlist and mobilize partnerships with the private sector to complement government's resources in trying to respond to urgent development and service delivery challenges. We are also cognizant that at its briefing to the NCOP Select Committee, COCTA we are cognizant that at its briefing to the NCOP Select Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the 16th of July this year, the department indicated that within the next month it will brief this Parliament on a comprehensive 5-year strategic framework on how to deal with the challenges that are encountered by our municipalities. This will clearly outline interventions aimed at changing the face of our local municipalities. We also anticipate that Parliament will engage the Department's strategic framework when it is tabled, so that together all of us we can ensure that speedy implementation of our interventions that are aimed at improving the quality of services to our people are delivered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Stenezi.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I'm sure the Deputy President would agree with me that part of these service delivery protests happen when promises that are made don't intersect with actual delivery, or when the money set aside for delivery is actually siphoned off. Now, one of the key hotspots in South Africa over the course of the last few months has been Alexandra Township in Johannesburg. And I can hear the honourable members on the other side saying, well, it's a DA-run municipality, and absolutely. But I think that, Deputy President, we need to look at what the origin of it is, because money was set aside for the Alex Renewal Project, 160 million rand in 2001 by President Mbeki, announced from that very podium where you are. But the truth of the matter, Deputy President, is that money has all been siphoned off. Money spent for housing, sanitation, community development has all been stolen. And as a result, those services have not been rolled out. Given the fact that the Gauteng MEC of Housing refuses to cooperate with the Human Rights Commission looking into this, would you, Deputy President, announce to us what steps your government is taking to look into what happened to that funding, where those funds were siphoned off by ANC members, and steps that you're going to take to ensure that these service delivery crises that are there are actually dealt with properly? Thank you.
On a point of order, Chair.
A point of order?
Yes, Chair. I'm rising on Rule 137.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you
Rule
very much.
137 provides that the follow-up question must be relevant to the original question. The question asked is a new question altogether. Thank you, Chair.
Can I rule on this? The follow-up question is on issues related to townships.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The question of Alexander, it's obviously an issue that government is concerned about. You'll be aware that the President visited Alexander, and definitely we are going to cooperate with the provincial government and the municipality to deal with the problem in Alexandra. We are going to work with Mayor Mashaba, we are going to work with Premier Makura to deal with the problem. We, in the process, will find out what happened, because before dealing with the problem, we're going to get the history of that project. But we can promise the people of Alexandra that as government, we are going to coordinate our efforts regardless of our party affiliation. We are going to work with the DA to deliver, to build those houses, to make Alexandra a better place to live in. I don't know. I don't know. Now, if you know someone who has stolen money there, please report this to the nearest police station as we speak, if you know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy
Thank you.
President. The Honorable Shengwa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. Deputy President, the audit outcomes reveal, amongst other things, that the financial statements submitted for audit by municipalities are inconsistent with the reporting format. The concern, however, is that of the municipalities that are accused of this, they then use consultants, and in total spent an amount of 907 million rands to pay those consultants. Therefore, the fundamental question becomes, Mr. Deputy President, there's an acknowledgement here that the skills are not there, but even when consultants can't do the work that they are being paid for, that's the problem. So what is it specifically that government is going to do to ensure that the necessary requisite skills are present, alive, and that people who are fit for purpose are actually employed in municipalities? Because obviously we are tripping one financially after the other with the same problem. 13 municipalities over the past 5 years have received adverse or disclaimed findings, not one within 139 intervention. So the issue of consequence management becomes another concern here. So I hear all the things you are saying, but what are the speedy interventions that will happen? Because come next year, the same problem is going to arise.
Thank you, sir. The Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think as government we realize and we are cognizant of the problems that are affecting municipalities, as shown by the audit outcomes. And as government, we've accepted that we cannot make this problem a problem of the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. That is why the President said we must have a team of departments, a committee of departments that would work with COCTA so that we make a speedy intervention. Now, we need to deploy people with technical expertise in various sections and programs of municipalities, whether financial or technical, so that we support those areas. But where there are problems of service delivery, because of the lack of right personnel, projects are uncompleted, this team will intervene, supporting the Department of Cooperative Governance. We acknowledge the fact that there might be a challenge in terms of leadership in all our municipalities. The management of the affairs of the municipality is not at its best. Hence, this team supporting COCTA will come close to that space. We are aware of the many service delivery protests that have turned violent, and it's important that as government we should not leave these service delivery protests just to go unabated. It's important that this committee must go in, sit down with the people, sit down with the municipality, bring the province, bring national department, intervene, solve the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The achtbare Wessels.
The Honourable Wessels.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the people of Mafube local municipality are currently suffering as a result of a complete shutdown of the municipality. Vehicles and banking accounts of this municipality have been seized by court order because of outstanding debt, and no service delivery is currently taking place. Violent protests have followed, and this municipality has been under Section 139 administration for the last 2 years already. My question is, has Mafube been identified as a service delivery hotspot? And what will be done by your government to provide immediate relief to the people of Mafube and solve this total shutdown, as the provincial government has proven that they can't, and the normal support programs have failed and will continue to fail? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, the municipality under question is part of those municipalities that have been identified by the Auditor General as municipalities that have collapsed in terms of providing services. So definitely it's going to be one of the priority municipalities that will be visited. And those visits will happen very soon. I can't therefore say what measures are going to be taken. We want to know exactly what is the problem. If a municipality is put under Section 139, of course, the NCOP also is part of that process. So we're going to get all the people that are part of the challenges that are there and find an immediate solution. As much as we're talking about internal problems in the municipality, we must ensure that people don't suffer the delivery of services because we're still talking. We need to unblock those blockages that are there so that people can get water, people can get electricity while fixing issues inside the municipality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Mchaisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The question is, Mr. Deputy President, have you engaged SALCA on how it can engage? Oh, yeah, don't shout at me, please. Have you engaged SALCA on how it can engage accountability negating institutions such as Public Accounts Committee as to address the flagged and non-compliance issues emerging from the AG's report?
Thank you, sir. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Well, like we've said, Honourable Speaker, that all issues that have been raised by the Auditor General are on our radar screen. And these are the issues that would be part of our intervention program. First of all, the Auditor General has raised a number of issues about each and every municipalities that are wrong. So instead of going somewhere and find new issues, start with those issues that already have been identified as problematic. So we're going to do just that.
Thank you, Deputy President. That takes care of the second question. We proceed to the third question. That question was put to you by the Honorable Shibambo, but my instructions are that the Honorable Ndlozi will take care of the question. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Section 209(1) of the Constitution of the Republic provides that any intelligence service other than the intelligence division of the Defense Force or the police service may be established only by the President as the head of the national executive and only in terms of national legislation. Currently, the National Strategic Intelligence Act, number 39 of 1994, defines the functions of members of the national intelligence structures. The relevant members of the national intelligence structures provided for in terms of the Act to support government with intelligence services are the following: the Intelligence Division of the National Defense Force, the Intelligence Division of the South African Police, the State Security Agency, and the service. As things stand, there is no bill that the executive has considered or processed in respect of establishing the intelligence services in any government departments and state-owned entities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Ndlozi.
Thank you, Deputy President and Speaker. Deputy President, would you agree that if there was a unit inside SARS which collected intelligence using covert means, would, according to this answer that you've just provided, be illegal, meaning it would be a rogue unit? And as a result, it would mean that your government has to either take action against the individuals involved, secondly, disband it, but thirdly, Deputy President, make sure that it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. The honorable member would appreciate the fact that this matter that you're speaking about, as we speak, it's in front of the court as to determine whether that unit was correctly established or not correctly established. So it would be really prematurely or wrong for us to start talking about a matter that is before court. Let's allow the court to finalize the matter without us talking about it and putting our views. Thank you very much.
Point of order, Speaker.
What is your point of order?
With the greatest respect, Honorable Speaker, there is a precedence. The matter of sub judice was clarified that indeed we can, because there is no court that can suspend, because of the separation of powers, your government being held accountable about the activities happening under your watch. Essentially, you are saying we can't do our duty until a court says so. So a matter can be commented on. There is a ruling of this House to that effect, Honorable Speaker. I plead with you, direct the Deputy President in line with the Constitution to answer the question and not say, no, I don't want to answer it. He must be held accountable. His government must be held accountable. If there was a rogue unit within SARS established by Honorable Jamnandis, isn't it obvious that your government must take action against him and all those that participated in that unit?
Thank you, Honorable Members. May I rule on this point of order? Order. Order. Honorable Members, Honorable Ndlozi says we must rule on this matter. The truth of the matter is that this matter is not only in front of the court, it is pending the decision of the court. Secondly, you do have a rule that says when any matter is pending a judicial decision, it's very specific, that we cannot talk on it. I don't think that that says that we are mum or that we are scared or that we can't deal with the matter. I think that the precedence you are referring to is something that I will look at. But for now, I will rule that that question, this supplementary, be set aside until I can get clarity on that, and therefore that, Deputy President, your response for today is sufficient. I want to, Honorable Ndlozi, I do not want to enter into a question and answer session with you. Deputy President, please take your seat.
Speaker, I respect that. Oh, can I address you, Speaker?
You will address me?
Thanks. I respect that. But can we get an assurance that then you will direct him to write that answer to us? Because you are going to make up your mind, as you say, Honorable Speaker, as to whether you should persuade the Deputy President to answer, because we submitted a question. This is the follow-up. We are well within our rights. If you arrive at the determination that the Deputy President, there's no court order that says we can't hold him accountable. If you arrive at such a determination, can you please have him put it in writing, because our supplementary question was not answered?
Thank you very much. The supplementary question was answered. And I want to say that I find it very difficult, members, to all of you, when you instruct us how to rule, when we are presiding. It's very problematic. I've ruled on this matter, and it will stay there. Honorable Steenhuisen, you have a matter?
Madam Speaker, may I request that this matter is referred to the Rules Committee? Because we have had precedents in the past. Got rulings from the Honourable Ginwala made in the House before, and as well as in the Fifth Parliament. The sub judice rule does no longer apply in South African law. The MIDI television case, it was held in the Constitutional Court, was very clear on that. What we can't do is discuss the merits of the case. But frankly, there are other issues that relate to the so-called rogue unit that have been dispensed with already by the Nugent Commission, as well as by Parliament. And I think that to rule this type of question out of order, it severely impedes members of Parliament's ability to do that. So may I ask that this ruling is referred to the Rules Committee urgently, because otherwise ministers and the executive are going to hide behind the sub judice rule continuously, in spite of the MIDI television ruling in the courts. Thank you.
Honourable members, I will refer this to the Rules Committee, but my ruling stands. The supplementary to the Deputy President says he must express an opinion, and that opinion would be out of order since he is not a court, and that is why I'm ruling it out of order. Can we proceed, please, to the Honourable Singh?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, one can only smile at how loaded this question is, but it's a right of any member to ask any question in this House. That aside, Honourable Deputy President, Gathering information as such is not illegal if done within the confines of the law. Businesses gather information, state-owned entities gather information, and that's commonly referred to as due diligence. And I trust, Honorable Deputy President, that the government is not intending to silence those that enter into a due diligence process. For example, Denel may want to examine what the ground is like when they get an order for arms. And they would look at other suppliers around the world and they would do a due diligence. Is it the intention of government to suppress any state-owned entity from entering into the principle of due diligence? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Probably I should refer you to the Act. I'm going to read some extracts from the Act so that probably it will clarify all of us. Functions of other departments of state with reference to national security intelligence. If any law expressly or by implication requires that Department of State, other than the agency or the service, to perform any function with regard to the security of the Republic or combating of any threat to the security of the Republic, such law shall be deemed to empower such department to gather departmental intelligence and to evaluate, correlate, interpret such intelligence for the purpose of discharging such function, provided that such Department of State shall not gather departmental intelligence within the Republic in a covert manner, provided such Department of State shall not gather departmental intelligence outside the Republic in a covert manner. I can proceed and proceed. But any department that seeks to gather information, it should do that through a law. And that law should come through this Parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Shakeman.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, let me remind this House that there are legal experts that are saying that this rogue unit is not necessarily illegal, even though it hadn't come via the President. But that's the first thing. But the intelligence in South Africa, in my view, Deputy President, is ineffective. Had it been effective, then of course my friends in red would not have looted the VBS bank for starters. They would not have evaded the SARS and they would have paid their taxes. Now, what are you going to do, Deputy President, to ensure that intelligence is more effective in South Africa?
Imam, have you finished putting your question?
There was no question. I'm raising on a point of order.
Can I address him first? Have you finished, putting your question?
Deputy President, what are you going to do to ensure that we have a more effective intelligence to prevent the looting of funds like what has happened by my friends in red with the VBS bank and the evasion of taxes in South Africa through SARS? Can you please tell us?
Honorable Ndlozi, you rose on a point of order. What is your point of order?
The point of order is that the honorable member says there are people who are wearing red, and Honorable Barbara Day is wearing red, who have looted VBS Bank. The chief whip of the house is wearing red. Has she looted VBS Bank? If that's the case, he's impugning on the reputation of honorable members without a substantive motion. I would rule that you rule him out of order, and he must withdraw those comments, because people who are wearing red in this house, there's no court of law that have said they've looted any bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable
Point of order.
Your point of order, sir.
The point of order, Madam Speaker, is simply this, and the Honourable Sheikh doesn't have a whip in the House, so it falls on me to do it. There's been plenty of precedent in the House that a member can make any comment about a political party. He can't make it about individuals. So even if the Honourable Sheikh had said the EFF had looted from VBS, it would have been within the rules. If it identified an individual and said individual or member X had done it, it would have been outside the rule. The Honourable Sheikh is well within the rights of to say what he did.
Speaker, Honorable Deputy President, please take your seat. Honorable Mkalipi.
Speaker, on a point of order, we can't move on that premise because if someone stood up here and said the DA have stolen the land, that one is going to be a problem. So please ask Sheikh Iman not to provoke the EFF because there is no court of law or any report for that matter have found any EFF on that report.
Point of order, Chair.
So we must not enter into that debate, especially with this member
Honorable
who has a
members.
fraud case. But we don't speak about that fraud case here, Speaker.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, may I rule? Order. Order. Honorable members, it is not unparliamentary to refer to a political party. We've had precedents. If you remember in 2014, there was a matter taken to court by the EFF, and that matter we lost as Parliament because they referred to C in a particular matter. So the Honorable Sheikh Imam went in a very roundabout way to pose this question and referred to members wearing red is actually not unparliamentary. So I rule against that. Honorable Deputy President, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, please take your seat.
The assertion by the honorable member who asked the follow-up question that our intelligence structures are not up to scratch. I'll differ with that. Because as we stand, we're in a very secure country. We are out of any threat. We're not threatened as South Africa. Our defense is doing very well. Our police are doing very well. Of course, there might be issues that will crop from time to time, but that does not mean our intelligence structures are ineffective. There, I beg to differ. They are. The country is stable. There's no threat that you can say there's foreign invasion, there's this and this. Our intelligence structures are effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The last supplementary goes to the Honorable Mkalipi. Honorable Mkalipi, have you forfeited? Okay. If she has forfeited that, the Honorable have you forfeited? The Honorable Makwanishi.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The state security agency is very critical for our national security, economic stability, for sustenance of our democracy, amongst others. Improvement of the regulatory mechanism is urgent to split domestic and foreign branches, as promised by the President in his State of the Nation address. We also need these regulatory mechanisms to deal with the creation of the position of Deputy Inspector General of Intelligence. Can I have your comment, Deputy President, on that?
Thank you, sir. The Deputy President.
Well, the comment is that I agree with you. I agree with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. We then proceed to our fourth question. That question was put to you by the Honorable J. Shabalala, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Our country's blueprint, the National Development Plan, clearly states that in order to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality, South Africa is to raise the levels of employment and thereby ensuring that people earn incomes and sustain their livelihoods. As one of our major public employment initiatives, the Expanded Public Works Program is our flagship program which contributes to the National Development Plan's core objective of achieving a decent standard of living for all South Africans by 2030. This program focuses on creating opportunities that enhances the acquisition of skills across a range of trade areas, such as construction, plumbing, welding, painting, infrastructure maintenance, just to name a few. In the process, those who are participating, they are paid stipends to sustain themselves and their families, thereby impacting and mitigating extreme poverty in our communities. Central to the objectives of this program is ensuring that, based on training and skills acquired during training, EPWP beneficiaries can now move into sustainable employment within the labor market. Alternatively, new pathways are created for these EPWP beneficiaries to engage in business ventures creation, utilizing training and skills acquired in the program. Experience from the implementation of this program indicates that the program has contributed towards the alleviation of poverty and the provision of work experience to participants. Since phase 1 of the program, more than 10 million work opportunities have been created, with over 64 billion paid in wages to participants. Even though the Expanded Public Works Program offers short-term employment, the income support it provides in terms of wages to all those who are participating makes a meaningful contribution towards reducing prevailing levels of poverty. As it enters its 4th phase, the Expanded Public Works Program will continue to draw its significant number of unemployed South Africans, especially our young people, into productive work in a manner that will enable them to gain skills, increase their capacity to earn an income, and contribute towards the betterment of our country. However, to broaden the scale and impact, the increased participation of the private sector and other non-state actors will be critical in the implementation of EPWP Phase 4. Our experience suggests that while government has invested in this program over the past few years, private sector participation has been limited or non-existent. One of the major challenges facing the program in provinces has to do with the placement of EPWP graduates after the end of their contracted period. Some of the beneficiaries have had to go back home. As an unintended consequence, this has created an expectation that government has to employ all these EPWP graduates. Such a position is fiscally untenable and unsustainable. We need an approach that draws in a significant contribution from our private sector partners. Our close collaboration with the private sector will ensure that a placement plan is jointly agreed to in order to ensure that opportunities are created by companies for the placement of some of these EPWP participants after graduating, depending on the skills that they've acquired. As part of increasing the intake of young people into public employment, government has already removed the requirement of experience as one of the criteria in the recruitment of new graduates. Going forward, the work of the Anti-Poverty Interministerial Committee will integrate our public employment program with other anti-poverty initiatives focusing on broad-based participation in the productive sectors of our economy. As we have highlighted in our earlier response, it is critical to prioritize the development of rural and township economies as part of boosting employment prospects in those poverty-stricken areas. Alongside public employment programs, specific focus will continue to be put on enterprise and skills development initiatives to empower our unemployed young people to participate in all key sectors of our economy. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Shabalala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, the issue of providing EPWP jobs as a short-term measure to alleviate poverty whilst empowering the beneficiaries of certain skills acquisition. Reality of the situation is that we want young people to turn these jobs to create employment, rather sustainable employment. That's the first thing. Now, Deputy President mentions the fourth phase and the 10 million young people that have been absorbed. Public sector have done away with the issue of young people required to have experience at the entry level. What are we going to do to ensure the private sector also tailor-made? But what is the monitoring evaluation that we're going to do to say the private sector is playing an advancement role? So we need the private sector to come on board on the issue. But the question is that, Deputy President, what are we going to do to ensure the private sector plays the role, but ensure the economy is also growing to a certain level where we can be able to create sustainable jobs on this EPWP? I thank you.
Deputy President, you have been given a number of supplementaries in that question. I have identified about 3. You are free to respond to one.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, I think on the side of government, the shortcoming is that we have not persuaded the private sector enough. The President has made an announcement that we are going to eliminate the experience part for new entrants in the public service. For us as government, we must persuade the private sector to afford our young people an opportunity to gain experience. Remove this requirement that any post that is advertised, there's a requirement of experience. So we must do our part in order to motivate and persuade the private sector to join government so that we deal with this unemployment. Well, the second part is that this program, as much as it's offering people short-term employment, it's not aimed at creating permanence. But what we recognize that it deals with poverty at that time. It also offers these young people skills that they can use to find employment or to create their own small enterprises. So this program must be supported. Some of the young people who participated in the EPWP are now running their small enterprises and they are being supported. So it's a good program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Graham.
Deputy President, you've waxed lyrical about the public employment programs and the numbers of work opportunities they've provided. But let's be honest here, the EPWP is nothing more than a social security program. Nowhere is this more evident than in the fact that EPWP participants are paid at 55% of the minimum wage. Yet you yourself, Deputy President, have said that the ANC believes that the national minimum wage is not a living wage, but a significant milestone towards it. And yet, in an interesting plot twist, former Deputy Minister Jeremy Cronin admitted that if EPWP participants were to be paid at the minimum wage, the number of people employed in the program would decline by 50% due to lack of affordability. That's certainly an interesting justification for non-compliance with your own laws. So this then begs the question, in a country where almost 10 million people are unemployed,
Your question, please. You've got 2 seconds.
And where the minimum wage is recognised as a barrier to employment and not being implemented, why would government impose a national minimum wage on all other sectors, including the private sector?
Thank you, ma'am. Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Our understanding of this program is that all the participants that are there are given a stipend, but not only a stipend. They are afforded an opportunity to gain skills. They are offered training. And that training is money. Government is paying money to train those participants in the different skills that are there, whether construction, plumbing, and all that. We consider this as a stipend, as people participate, as people try and gain the necessary skills. That is why it's a short-term program that takes an individual to a certain point where this individual can find gainful employment because of the skill in possession or start his or her own business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Njaisa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Madam Speaker. Deputy President, would you consider the establishment of Poverty Alleviation Fund that would expressly focus on the poverty alleviation projects so as to assist many that are poor, more especially the people that are living in squalor conditions? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Well, I haven't thought of the creation of a fund because fighting poverty should be a coordinated effort stemming from different role players, departments, spheres of government, collaborating to deal with the poverty-stricken area. Poverty is not only getting food. Provision of infrastructure, schools, roads, water, everything. So this needs an integrated effort to those who are charged with certain responsibilities of providing roads, of providing schools. So creating a fund will defeat this collaborative idea that we're putting forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, the ACDP believes that in view of the high unemployment rates, that as part of a wider employment plan, public employment can, to a certain limited degree, complement private sector employment. However, and this is in response to your first question, policymakers agree the thriving SMMEs is a key to job creation in the country. And the NDP, as indicated earlier, predicts 11 million new jobs are needed by 2030, 90% by SMEs. Now, a key finding in the EPWP Phase 3 review was that partnerships should be strengthened with the private sector, and it was alluded to in an earlier question, and you answered, how can that be strengthened? But surely, Deputy President, would you give us an indication that one of the problems with SMMEs is access to funding? Would you agree that if there's greater funding for SMEs, they will be able to partner with the EPWP phases and create more jobs? And is that something that government will be looking into, considering that SMEs are the greatest job creation mechanisms? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
I agree with that assertion. Because in the program of EPWP, as much as we are intervening in terms of poverty, giving people stipends, what is long-term is that these people come out of the program with a skill. Now, with that skill, they can start their own business or they can find employment. Now, you are saying, as you support EPWP, the gaining of skills, the training. You must also support SMMEs, because the likelihood is that these people are going to be absorbed by these SMMEs. And that is what we're doing. Government has decided to create a department of small business so that we can place focus squarely on growing small enterprises. And we're going to support the Minister of Small Business, work together so that these SMMEs are supported and there is an aftercare program that they don't fail, they don't relapse, so that an opportunity is created to absorb these participants of EPWP. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. That puts us at the end of the question number 4. We proceed to question number 5. It was put to you by the Honorable Ngwezi. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As we have indicated earlier, part of the new responsibilities delegated to us by the President is to coordinate intervention aimed at stimulating rural and township economies. This work includes facilitation of socio-economic empowerment models for increased economic inclusion at local level, championing of high-impact tourism empowerment projects for rural and township communities, and facilitation of linkages to private and public markets and value chains for SMMEs in our special economic zones across the country. For the benefit of the here as our delegated responsibility flows from an appreciation that the country, in every province, in every district, there are a number of local economic development initiatives that are working. Of course, they are fragmented and they are disconnected. We believe that if these economic activities were to be consolidated, coordinated, with a view to alleviate and elevate their potential business and potential, a lot of our rural and township enterprises can be uplifted and supported to become sustainable with the capacity to contribute to our local economic development, capacity to contribute to job creation in these districts and local communities. In the process, the much needed employment to respond to the present youth unemployment challenge could be addressed. We trust that you will agree with us, honorable members, that rural and township economies are places where there's vast, untapped, productive capacities and markets. Think of how many panel beatings, spray painting operations, how many wheels and tire operations, how many carpentry, welding, textile, and creative industries that are found in many parts of our townships and rural areas. Think of how many women-led small-scale informal enterprises that are there to feed these entrepreneurs' families and educate their children. The potential in our township and rural areas is vast and it's untapped. These are the real small businesses that must be uplifted and provided with the necessary support, whether financial or non-financial, so that they can prosper. Our models should ask what purpose will be development of big malls, big shopping centers, which does not serve or support local markets and value chains in those townships and rural areas. For township and rural economies to thrive, localization and ring-fencing of certain economic sectors to really achieve transformation should be the primary pillars of this program. We will not meaningfully address the existing obstacles to sustainable participation of black people, especially those who are operating within township and rural economies, if we do not take bold actions currently to create the necessary conditions that will deconcentrate economic activity from big players. Therefore, dealing with this unemployment challenge requires a comprehensive and a coordinated approach that is targeted and multi-sectoral. This effort requires careful and coordination of relevant opportunities, taking into account the level of know-how of unemployed young people. While government does have various interventions and partnerships through national government, provincial government, and our agencies, we need to ensure that all these interventions that are targeted to address youth unemployment must be part of a multi-pronged intervention, which includes skills development, especially for those young people who are not in any employment, who are not in any education facility or training. Furthermore, we need to direct industrial funding towards our young people to provide the capital for the growth and expansion of their ideas. 4 years ago, targets were set for industrial financing to young empowered enterprises over the period of 5 years. Within 1 year that is left in this period, the Industrial Development Corporation has already exceeded its target, providing more than 5.1 billion in funding to more than 120 youth-empowered enterprises. In addition to funding our youth, we have to find ways to open up markets so that new enterprises can complete and compete fairly. Earlier this month, the Competition Amendment Act was promulgated by the President. As a key focus of these amendments is an opening of markets where concentration and the behavior of dominant firms is harmful to the creation of jobs and the growth of small and medium businesses in sectors across our economy. Our response, therefore, seeks to consolidate various impactful initiatives that are being implemented in fragmented ways by some provincial governments and national departments. The intervention will identify, develop, and support qualifying SMMEs in order to support them to become competitive manufacturers and suppliers of building materials where this could be sourced, for development of human settlements and paving of municipal roads and pathways. For our party's government, we will continue to support SMMEs and cooperatives through targeted procurement initiatives for government infrastructure and human settlement projects. As we move forward, the Anti-Poverty Interministerial Committee will prioritize the implementation of economic empowerment models that aggregate government procurement spend in key areas to drive the incubation and participation of small business in general and in township and rural areas. We are pleased that some of government departments and provinces have started with piloting and implementing some of these initiatives. For instance, the Department of Small Business Development is implementing an aggregated community produce for school nutrition program, while in Mpumalanga, where I come from, the province has begun with the implementation of government nutrition program to stimulate agricultural production and empower upcoming farmers to supply fresh produce to government institutions such as hospitals and schools. In KwaZulu-Natal, the radical agrarian socio-economic transformation provides support to small-scale farmers by offering them markets, access to leverage on government procurement. There are various economic empowerment models that are being implemented in other provinces. But like we have said, our approach is fragmented. Our task as the center of government is to lead, coordinate, consolidate our efforts to expand the scale and the impact. As we upscale these programs, we must pay particular attention to the incubation of young people and women-owned enterprises to support their meaningful participation in our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Mshengu, ngiyabonga ngempendulo.
Thank you very much, Mshengu, the answer that you are giving me, but I think that you will agree with me when I say that some of the solutions that you are giving us are long-term solutions. Now, my worry is that South Africans, especially the youth, are stuck on unemployment as we
So all we
speak.
will need are quick wins, Honorable Deputy President, quick solutions.
Which will create job opportunities for now. I just want to know, does the office have solutions? Quick solutions will create job opportunities. And if there are job opportunities, how can we make it a point that it is the South Africans instead of benefiting foreigners? Thank you very much, Deputy. Thank you very much.
Kuyazwakala ukuthi
It is
isimo
clear
esibhekene
that
naso sidinga
the
ukuthi
situation that we are facing
kusheshwe
is
kulungise
urgent
lokhu okusikubonayo.
to solve the
Sikwenze
problem that
futhi
we are faced
masinyane.
with. We must do that quickly.
Kuvamisekile ke ukuthi izinto
Usually,
esizenza
when we do
masinyane
things quickly,
zingabi sustainable.
do not become sustainable.
Kufanele ukuthi esikwenza manje
It is therefore important that what we
kube
do
i-building
now
block
should be a building
yalokhu
block
esizokwenza in future.
of what we are going to build in future.
Njengoba uma uqala indlela of 1,000 miles,
As when you
uzoyiqala
start a
nga-1
journey
mile,
of 1,000 miles, you
but
start with
finally
1 mile,
you will reach 1,000
but
miles.
at the end you'll reach 1,000
Manje
miles.
ke,
Therefore,
nanoma isimo sibonakala sisibi kakhulu,
even if the situation
ngifuna ukusho
is
ukuthi
so
ikhona
bad,
imizamo
I just want to say that
eyenzekayo.
there are some
Njengale
means
engiyibalile.
that we are doing,
Ngibalile
such
nje
as the
ukuthi
one that I've
IDC
indicated. I've
isupporte
mentioned that
labantu
as
laba, iyasupporta
IDC
labantu
is
laba.
supporting those people
Kukhona
and others.
okwenzekayo.
There is something happening.
Sikwenza sihlukene.
We do it in
Esikucelayo la
different
ukuthi
ways. But what we are
nalokhu
requesting
esizokwenza
is that what we are going to do
sizohlanganisa
is that we are
zonke lezi
going
zinto esizenza
to,
sehlukene
you know,
ukuze
mix
i-impact
these things
yethu
that
ibe
we
inkulu.
do in
Ama
different ways
provinces
so that
enza
our
lokhu,
impact can
unational
be
wenza
big.
lokhu,
The provinces are
awomasipala
doing
benza
this, the national is doing this,
Sifuna
municipalities are
ukuthi uma
doing that. We want to
sibheka
say
indaba,
that
yokuswelakala
when we
kwemisebenzi
look at
kwabantu
the issue
abancane
of unemployment
sihlangane
of the youth, we must
national,
be united as
singama
national,
province,
as provinces,
umasipala
and as
ngoba ke
municipality.
ziningi
Because
izikhungo
there are a number
ezisupportayo ngemali
of places or of
ezakhiwe uhulumeni
places
ngaphandle
or
kwama
agents that are supporting with
okuswelakayo
money,
ukuthi
still in the
sibasize
departments. What we are lacking is that
baze
we
baphumelele
need to
labantu abancane
assist
abaqala
these
amabhizinisi
youth so that at the end
Futhi ke
there will be
okunye,
entrepreneurs.
kufuna
One other thing
sikugcizelela ukuthi abantu
that we
abancane
need to emphasize is
kufanele
that
baye
these
esikoleni
youth must go to
bathole
school
ikhono
and gain
lokwenza
skills
umsebenzi
to do the job.
ukuthi baqashe.
so that they can be employable.
Ama-program esikhulume ngawo,
The programs that
EPWP,
we've discussed,
ama-trainings
such as
athe
EPWP,
gcithisakala.
there are a lot of
Kodwa
trainings.
sicela ukuthi abantu
But
bakithi
we
abancane
request that our
abaye
youth
kulezo zikhungo
should go
bathole
to these
i-training.
institutions and
Bathole
receive
ikhono
training.
elithile
They must
lokuthi
gain a
bakwazi
particular
ukuqasheka.
skill so that now
Futhi
they'll be
bakwazi
able
nokuthi
to be employable,
baqale
and so
eyabo
that now
inkampani
they'll be able
ezosizwa
to
uhulumeni.
start their own companies,
ngifuna
which
ukusho nje
will be
ukuthi
subsidized
indlela
by
le
the
ingabonakala
government.
yinde futhi
I want to
ibonakala
emphasize that this
inzima.
journey might
Kodwa indlela esilingele
or
thina
might
abantu
seem
base-South
as
Africa
long,
ukuthi sihambe
but we
nale
need
nkinga
to
esiphambi
go with
kwazo,
our problems that we are
sizixazulule.
facing, and at the end we must come
Akukho-ke
up with the
okungasitula uma
solutions.
sibambene,
There's nothing that can
futhi
defeat
sifocus
us if
kuleyo
we are
problem.
united
Ngiyabonga.
and focused on that particular problem. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Babu Ntshangisa.
Honorable Nchaisa.
Thank you very much.
Tatu Ntshangisa, just hold. Honorable members, I follow the system. As you press, you are recorded, and I follow that list very religiously. Tatu Ntshangisa, please, you have the floor.
Well spoken, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I think I'm covered by the Deputy President because what I wanted. No, wait, please. You must learn to wait.
You are on the floor. Don't address the members. Address the chair.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to know is that because the creation of 2 million jobs within a decade is not something easy, then I would like now the Deputy President to elaborate on this great initiative. How is it going to be made a success? But somehow you have covered me in this very response that you have done. But you have got more. You can still say more. Thank you very much.
Hey, Deputy President.
No, I don't have more. I'm
The-
fine. Thank you.
The Honorable Tsebekulu.
I'm so sorry, Speaker. I have forfeited my follow-up question.
Siyabonga baba. The
Thank you very
Honorable
much,
Sheikh
Honorable
Man.
Member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, we do agree that there is very high unemployment rate, particularly amongst the youth. The TVET colleges have a pass rate of 1 in 10. There is a massive skills shortage in the country while there's an abundance in other skills. Now that is as a result of the fact that the skills at TVET colleges do not speak to the skills needs of the country. Now, how are you going to address that to ensure that, and I'll give you an example. South Africa has a shortage of plumbers, electricians, carpenters, and things. At the same time, we have millions of people with BCom degrees that are doing nothing, or people that are taking on those things where we have a skills excess. How are you going to actually deal with this to try and address that? So there's some coordination between the needs of the country, because remember, TVETs are to a large extent
please.
funded by government. Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, I've been assigned the responsibility by the President to chair the Human Resource Development Council. Now, in that council, we have got the private sector, we have got civil society, we've got government. This question came a number of times that there is a skills mismatch in the country. We are we're training young people that cannot be absorbed by our private sector. It's a matter that it's on the table, and it's possible that our training can be tailor-made to suit the needs of industry. But of course, any skill that is acquired by a young person, that skill is important. We are not only looking at giving young people a skill so that they can be employed. We are giving them a skill so that they can also be employers. So it's a two-pronged process, because there is a program where government is consistently supporting small enterprises so that they can grow and be big enterprises. Now, any economy that is thriving has its foundation the small, medium enterprises that are able to employ 1 or 2 up to 100 people. Those SMMEs are an important mixture in any economy for that economy to thrive. So what I'm saying is, it's a matter that the council is going to discuss, the skills mismatch, but whatever skills that are out there, people have acquired, they can put them into best use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Kadu.
Deputy President, Statistics South Africa has released data showing that black South Africans aged between 25 and 34 are less skilled than their parents. Furthermore, according to former Statistician General Pali Lahotla, since 1994, in comparison to their white, Indian and colored counterparts, black youths have, quote, lost out in acquiring skills, which is the crux of youth unemployment and a sign of regression, close quote. Deputy President, why has the ANC government allowed this regression to take place, and what is it doing to develop the skills of all our youth so that they are ready for the fourth industrial revolution?
Thank you, sir. The Deputy President.
I partly agree with that assertion because I have the labor survey from Stats SA about the number of young people that are not in training, that are not employed, that are not in any education institution. Well, it's a big number. It's a big number. It's important that as government, probably we come down below what you call the TVET college. We must think of a college that will accommodate those of our young people who don't have matric, who have not passed grade A7. Now, for a TVET college, there are certain requirements, entry requirements, that can exclude some of the young people. So it's important as government, and it's a matter that we're discussing as the council, to say, come up with a community college that would not require any entrance qualification. Take every young person, assess that young person, give this young person a scheme. Because most of these young people, because of their conditions, where they live, they could not go to school. As much as we've made education as the ANC government free, children that are attending our primary schools, children that are attending our secondary schools, they do so free. And they get food at school. Well, there are some public schools where parents, governing bodies agree that we can pay money because we can afford. But there's no child that can be excluded on the basis of non-affordability. That is known. But there are areas in our rural communities where these young people did not present themselves in any facility, school. Now, these are the young people that are not in education, that are not in training, that are not employed. Now, what do you do with them? Now, they can't be admitted in a university, they can't be admitted in a college. Now, create a facility that will accommodate them, but finally, give them a skill, train them. So that is the matter that is before our council. It's a matter that is confronting this government, but you know where we come from with this matter. It's a matter of our historical past, which we're trying to address. And we're not consistently blaming that past. What is before us is to address those challenges. But let's not forget where we come from. Thank you very much.
Deputy President, we proceed, Deputy President, to your last question for the day. That question was put to you by the Honorable Groenewald. Deputy President.
Oh, he's still here. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. In line with our delegated responsibility to accelerate land reform program, our government remains committed to pursuing this program without disrupting agricultural production. In this regard, our focus will be to ensure the effective coordination of integrated farmer support, interventions including small-scale farmers, and link them to market value chains. In the course of the implementation of this program, we are mindful of the challenges faced by farmers related to droughts, which is exacerbated by climate change, as well as rising input costs that impact negatively on agricultural production, resulting in job losses and closure of some of these agricultural enterprises. As government will not allow our agricultural sector to collapse because farmers are the lifeblood of our economy. That is why part of our response to these challenges, we have set aside a package of financial assistance to affected farmers in various provinces. I'm advised by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development that various provinces were assisted with drought relief funding. In this regard, the Free State, Northern Cape and Eastern Cape provinces are among the provinces that received drought relief funding during the last quarter of 2018-19 financial year. This does not amount to agricultural subsidies, but our effort as government to alleviate the negative impact that this drought may have had on our farmers and sustainability of these small enterprises in those provinces. Allow me briefly to enumerate some of the funding allocated and dispersed to all the approved provinces. Funds were dispersed from the National Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries to various provinces for implementation of projects according to their needs assessment. In this regard, 20 million was allocated to the Eastern Cape, 13.5 million was allocated to the Free State, 43 million was allocated to the Northern Cape, 10 million allocated to Limpopo, 10 million allocated to Mpumalanga, 170 million was allocated to Western Cape. Both the Northern Cape and Eastern Cape Departments of Agriculture provided fodder to the affected farmers, while the Free State Department of Agriculture is currently providing relief in terms of water infrastructure projects, including boreholes and desilting of dams. The main focus was on subsistence and smallholder farmers. However, in provinces like the Western Cape and the Northern Cape, all categories of farmers benefited in these affected municipalities. Fodder and water infrastructure were used to support affected livestock in terms of feeding and drinking water. Some farmers have bought livestock and crop and will use the water for irrigation as well. The Department of Agriculture and Land Reform and Rural Development, in collaboration with provincial departments of agriculture, will continuously provide and disseminate early warning information awareness and drought coping mechanisms, provinces are also putting measures in place to assist these affected farmers. In terms of the processes, in cases of drought, municipal and district agricultural officers guide farmers in terms of legislated processes relating to support as outlined in our Disaster Management Act. This act stipulates that provinces and municipalities must set aside a percentage or reprioritize their budgets to address the disaster in terms of relief and recovery. When this percentage has been exhausted, the province or the municipality concerned may access funds from National Treasury, which is managed by National Treasury through the National Disaster Management Center, housed at the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, to deal with all disaster matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Groenewald.
Agbare Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I don't know if the Honorable Deputy President can speak Afrikaans, but I'll speak to him in English.
I'm very poor in Afrikaans.
Baie dankie. In daardie geval.
In that case.
Yes,
okay,
yes. I'm sorry.
No, sure. I appreciate it. I think the Honorable Deputy President have mentioned the challenges of the agricultural sector in South Africa. The fact of the matter is that I don't think people always realize the impact, for instance, of drought. I read an article in a newspaper the other day where business people in Durban, for instance, are very worried about the drought in the Northern Cape because they sell certain food products like, what do they call it? Bunny chows. I don't eat bunny chows, but they eat bunny chows. But they have the special bunny chows with Karoo lamb, which is very, very favorable sort of food in Durban. But now they are affected by the drought and they are losing some of their business. My question and my follow-up question to the Honourable Deputy President is, we acknowledge, and the farming community also are thankful for the fact that the governments give certain reliefs. But my follow-up is, the problem is with the administration. And let me give you one example. In the Northern Cape, at the start of this year, for instance, the district local municipalities already declared the area as a state of drought and as disaster. But because of the red tape to get the money, that's where the problem is. Unfortunately, livestock cannot wait another day to say, we will eat tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Is this Honourable Deputy President prepared to intervene with that process to speed it up? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Yes, I'm prepared to intervene. You would be aware that I'm chairing the IMC on land reform. We want to work with farmers, and because you have mentioned farmers in the Eastern Cape, in the Northern Cape, in Free State, we spoke with the Minister about this matter, and I've indicated my interest to visit those farmers so that I can hear from them what are the bottlenecks, what are the problems. Because in order to support farmers, to ensure that we use our land productively, we must deal with all the bottlenecks that are between ourselves and the farmers on the ground. So we want to set up integrated support at a district level that will support farmers, but that will do together with the provinces, together with those municipalities. But in this case, I'll be glad if I take the first visit to go and discuss with those farmers and see the conditions of the affected farms and the extent, the scope and scale of the drought. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honorable Tebekulu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Deputy President, the main challenge that one is facing is that when the department has got a problem of assisting these farmers when they have a problem, you find that at the end of the day they don't get any help. What I want to ask, Honorable Member, is that all the money that assists the farmers, part of it does not reach those whom it is intended for. It ends up in the hands of the officials and other people who are used to issue this money. Is your department probably prepared to investigate? For an example, in KZN, there was drought in small growers, small farm growers are affected. People have complained. There were big meetings in the halls, but that money did not reach them. Can the Honorable Deputy President go and investigate this matter? Thank you very much. We will work together with the Minister, Togo Titiza, and work with the Premier of that particular province, and work also with the MEC for agriculture in that particular province, and work with the mayor of that particular community. What we are trying to do is that all of us, let us come together and be us who bring the resources. The Premier must know what the National Department is doing. The National Department must also know what the Premier is doing. The Premier must know what the municipality is doing. All monies that we are going to issue in relation